My name is Rod Cole, and today I wanted to talk to you about this idea of entitlement. But one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this is because this sense of entitlement, though it does affect people, there's only a handful of people that have it, but they have influence, and you want to be able to protect yourself. But for me, particularly as a minority who has experienced it, and I've also seen it, this sense of entitlement to me comes from two areas, possibly three. And one of the areas is ignorance. Now, I don't mean stupidity. And I don't like to use the word stupid because I don't think anybody is stupid. And I grew up in a time where people would label people stupid. I don't like that word. But that's the only example I can come up with. These people aren't stupid. They're intelligent. And they may even be really good people. I find that most of them are. They're just decent people. It's just they're a little bit deceived on their perceptions on how they view other people. So I call it ignorance. It's an ignorance. It's a learned ignorance. When you look at someone else and you feel that you're better than that someone else for merely appearance, the superficial idea of appearance, to me, that's an ignorance. It could be a learned ignorance, whether you learn it from family, other friends, you learn it within your pockets of society, maybe you've learned it within the media. I don't know. But to me, it's a ignorance. It's just a not understanding. And the thing is about this ignorance, when you come across this ignorance, regardless of who you are, you could be a minority, non-minority, because it can happen anywhere. Men, women, it's up to you when you come across this ignorance is to make a stand. And you don't have to make a stand where you're being obnoxious, you're screaming, you're yelling, you're being violent in that way. It's not about making a stand in that way. It's just about having an understanding of your situation and saying to yourself, oh, wait a minute. I'm in a situation where this person seems to feel entitled with me because of our appearance, and I'm not going to buy into it. I'm not going to agree with it. I'm not going to give in to this situation. It's a situation where you just make an acknowledgement for yourself and you say, okay, this situation I'm in, I don't have to go along with it. And really, that's all it takes. Because entitlement alone is not very strong. It's a weak foundation. I find that people that are entitled, they need you to go along with it and to agree with it so that they can have this feeling of entitlement, so they can believe in this feeling of entitlement. If you don't go along with it, if you don't agree with it, then what happens, the entitlement stops right at that meeting with you. It just falls away. It doesn't exist. And then the person who tried to influence entitlement on you is confused. They become upset. They become hurt. And the reason why they become hurt is because of their own ignorance. They believe wrongly that they're entitled because of how you look compared to how they look, or because of how their life is. So they believe they're entitled. So if this is a strong belief and they come across you and you go along with it, it feeds into that belief and everything's all fine in their world. But if you disagree with it, and this is not about an argument, this is not even about winning, this is not even about persuading, it's none of that. It's just that if you don't go along with it in your thought process, if you don't go along with when you deny it or you say no or you don't agree with it, what happens is it stops that whole process. Because keep in mind, for entitlement to exist, you have to go along with it. That's the only way it can exist. And this is why I always say it's in our minds. It's our thought process, how we feel about ourselves, how we view our situations. It's in our minds. It's always in our minds. So in your mind first, you have to have an understanding of yourself and of your value. So when you come across someone, and there's only a few people, like I mentioned before, that have this sense of entitlement with you, you first look at yourself and you say, wait a minute, I know who I am in this situation, and this doesn't make sense. And when you have that foundation of self, when you can stop and say, I know who I am in this situation, and this doesn't make sense, and it takes courage, then what you can do is you can disagree. And I'm not talking about fighting. This is not a fight. This is, you can disagree when you come across a person who has a situation of entitlement where they try to force entitlement on you. You disagree with it. You don't go along with it. It's that simple. And what happens, that sense of entitlement will stop right there. It has no choice. Entitlement can only exist if two people may have an agreement on it. But if two people don't have an agreement on when people are trying to influence you, then it doesn't exist. See, somebody can walk around and have a sense of entitlement, and they don't meet with people, they're not talking to people, and they have a sense of entitlement. Basically, they're lying to themselves. And they can get away with that. But to really feel like you have a strong sense of entitlement, you have to practice that sense of entitlement against others for you can really buy into it. And if you come across people, person after person after person, including you, and you deny that sense of entitlement because you don't feel it, you don't believe in it, that's not who you are, then that sense of entitlement dies.